This video is an instructional video on how to create the Automoblocks passenger insert. And we're going to look at this insert. Each car has a little bit different one, but this is the one we're going to use. It has 4 different geometric shapes, but the first thing we have to make sure is we get this sort of quote-unquote block of plastic. So we're going to be planning this. Starts off as basically a rectangle. We will then fillet the corners and then extrude to a height of 0.3. Then we'll go back and we'll put in the different shapes. I'm going to save the star for last, so I'll probably create a separate video for that. It's a little more complicated. And there are 2 different ways that you can create the star, and I'll go over that in a separate video. So let's get started. We're going to need a width of 1.975 and a height of 1.590. So we're going to start a new part. So click on New, Standard.ipt. And here we are. Yours may take a little bit longer to upload. That's fine. Start a new sketch. And once again, I usually use XY plane, but you can use the YZ. That's fine. And then we want a rectangle. Let's look back real quick. 1975. So dimension, the bottom line at 1.975. And dimension the height of 1.590. 1.590. So that is our rectangle to start with. Let's go ahead and look at the fillets. It looks like a 0.20. So we're going to fillet all 4 corners. There's our fillet tool here. Go ahead and type in 0.2 and click on each corner. Okay, and I believe that's it. Now we're going to finish sketch. 0.3 is what we want. So finish sketch. We will extrude a height of 0.3. All right. So now on this surface, this is where we're going to draw our geometric shapes. So I'm going to right click, new sketch. So in the upper left quadrant, we have a circle with a diameter of 0.58. Then that circle has been dimensioned to be certain distances away from the top of the part and the left of the part. And they dimension the edge of the circle, so we'll see if that's a viable option. The first thing we want to do is draw a circle at 0.58 diameter. So use the circle tool. This quadrant here, 0.58, dimension, 0.58. Now move my circle, so hit escape, and we can grab the center point of the circle and move it back where it's in the part. We want the back edge of the circle to be 0.2 away from the back edge of the part. So dimension from the back edge of the part to the circle. That should be 0.2. Oops. Look what it did. It took me to the center of the circle, not the back edge. Rewind that. 2 spots. That's interesting. Huh. So it looks like the dimensions they use are not how Inventor wants to make measurement. So you can't really measure from the outside edge of the circle to the part. So what we need to do then is we need to figure out from the center point to the back so that we have a 0.2. Well, from center point to the edge of the circle is half of the diameter. So what is half of 58? Well, half of 50 is 25. Half of 8 is 4, so it's 29 total. So 0.29 is from the center to here, plus another 0.2. So that's a total of 0.49. So I'm going to change that here. I'm going to change this dimension to 0.49. And that should be the correct distance to the back of the part. Now, as far as the height up here, let's go back and look. 0.05. Well, we just said it was 0.29 was the radius, plus a 0.05. So if you don't have a calculator handy, watch this. You just click on it, the dimension that you're setting. Well, we need to actually set the dimension. So from this edge to the center, this is what we're putting in. If you don't know or have a calculator handy, just type in 0.29 for the radius plus 0.05, and it'll do the math for you. And so it's a total of 0.34. So that circle is in the correct place now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish sketch. That way we're saving it one piece at a time instead of drawing 3 sketches and hoping we don't mess up. Now that I've saved it, I can come back to this point. I'm going to put another sketch, new sketch, and then we're going to draw another thing here. And this time, we're drawing a square. 0.58. They don't tell you it's a square, but because they don't give you another dimension, you assume it's a square. If they wanted you to draw a rectangle, they would give you 2 different dimensions, a length and a width. But because they only gave you 1, we can assume that it is a square. And it looks like the top of the square is 0.05 from the top of the block. And then the front of the square is 0.2 from the front of the part. So it's the same placement settings as we had with the circle. But 0.58 is our side. So let's go back to Inventor. And we're going to use the rectangle tool. You don't have to get perfectly for a square. You just draw a simple square. We're going to go back and dimension it to be the proper size. And 0.58. Don't worry about the dimensions moving your part. 0.58. Now, hit escape. Grab the edge of the circle and slide it down. And then grab the back of the circle and slide it over. So we've put it in the part. Now we're going to dimension from the top of the square to the top of the part. And it should be 0.05. And then we're going to do front right, I should say, the right of the square to the right of the block. Let's see, our distance should be 0.2. So those two objects, those two shapes are in the right place now. So finish sketch. All right, next up, let's do the triangle. The triangle down here, 0.638. They don't give you any other side measures, so we're going to assume it's equilateral. If you're using the triangle tool, it's a regular polygon, so yes, it is equilateral. And then it's 0.5. Here's the tricky part. It says 0.5, which is this end point to here. We'll see if we can pull that measurement or not. We may be able to click on the points of the triangle to get our measurements. Otherwise, we're going to have to do some math to figure out the center point. But I think we can pull endpoints. So we're back here. Right-click, New Sketch. And now, how to draw a triangle. We have circle and we have rectangle. Triangles are polygons, just like rectangles. And so we drop down the menu here, this little arrow, we drop that down. And we go all the way down to polygon. And then for sides, we type in 3. Done. And now, when I click on Polygon tool with 3 sides, when I click in the center and then move my mouse outward, it creates a triangle. Now, the tricky part about this triangle is we need to try and line it up straight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to force it by putting this vertical constraint. If I put a vertical constraint on this line, it makes it vertical. So let's rewind and show you an error. So if I drew a triangle and I didn't have it lined up properly, like it was like this, and it's not pointed properly, if I use my vertical constraint on this line, it moves my triangle so that the back line is perfectly vertical. So that's a good little geometry tool. You toyed with that in the very first activity that we did. Okay. Now we got to go back and look at dimensions. 0.638 is the length of the side. So I'm going to dimension this side as 0.638. Move my triangle, so I'm going to grab the center of my triangle. I'm going to hit escape. Sorry, you got to hit escape to do this. Grab the center of the triangle and drag it downward. All right. Now we want this bottom point to be 0.05. Let's see if we can pull that. So we can click on this point here to this edge here. 0.05. And then the front point of our triangle to the right edge, that should be 0.2. So what we see is the back of the triangle is somewhat lined up with the back of the part. Or at the very least, these are lined up. All right, so we've done that so far. Finish sketch. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to extrude this, and then when we do the star, we'll finish it out with a shell. But let's go ahead and cut these 3 shapes. Now, we've made 3 different sketches, so it's quite possible when we do an extrusion, it only extrudes the last sketch we created. Let's find out. This is Inventor 2020. I've not used it any more than you have. I've used 17, 18, and 19. So let's see what they've done with it. Click Extrude. And then it says Select Profiles from Select Face. So here's a profile. Here's a profile. And there's 3 different profiles. It only selected one of them. So if I do I'm going to try and see if I can use a shortcut key to do it. Yeah, it's not going to let me. How about sketches? Well, let me do sketches now. Okay, no worries. So let's do one extrusion. So extrude this circle, but we want to cut it. So change it to a cut, which is here. And it's got to go all the way through the part. The part was 0.3 thick, so as long as it has a 0.3 distance, you're fine. And then click OK. And then watch what happens. Those other 2 sketches will disappear. Oh, they didn't. Shocking. So what has happened is this extrusion over here in our menu, this extrusion is actually for this sketch. Now I need to create an extrusion for this sketch. Let's see, if I go to extrude, I can select the square this time. So they have changed this a little bit. It's actually a little bit easier than it used to be. All right, and now we're going to select the triangle this time. Go to extrude, cut. And now you've got your triangle selected, and click OK. So there it is. That is most of our passenger insert. So tune in to the next video on how to create the star shape, and then we'll shell from there, and then I'll show you how to change the color. That's always fun. All right, tune in next time.